Hello and welcome to Mirador Television. We are the biggest little TV in the world, based in Lewes, East Sussex in England. Our aim is to entertain and to spice things up a little. We will also keep an eye on the local politics, because let's face it, someone has to. Our programs range from stories about the local people to stories about people from all the way across the pond. Brought to you by our wonderful colleagues in New York. So why not sit back, relax with your favourite cuppa, or maybe your favourite tipple, and enjoy. This is Mirador Television.
Well, good morning. And one of the things that we have to worry about as COVID gets released is the mental stress that everybody's been under, and that some people have handled it better than others. And I thought that I'd handled it reasonably well. But talking to yourself is one of the signs of not having handled it very well. And I've just spent 20 minutes talking to myself because I was a bit sloppy and I pushed the wrong button. So although I thought that we were broadcasting, for 20 minutes, there has been silence from Mirador television. The mouth that roars wasn't roaring at all, except roaring to himself. And what an idiot. Yeah, I'm an idiot. I mean, actually, a lot of people think that anyway, but there are certain checks that you can make with the system that we use to broadcast, and I didn't make the last check. So, first of all, talking to myself, if I look as if I'm going mad, I probably am. And it just shows the sort of thing that can happen when you're under stress, as indeed many of us have been, and which is now being interpreted as an element of mental illness. But let's get to the point for the moment, because perhaps the most important headline for us in the news here locally is at Eton College. Yes, the college for the elite, the public school that sits on the Thames, owns about 500 acres of beautiful countryside around East Chiltington. Now, East Chiltington is not even a village; it's just a hamlet. And oh dear, let's keep this stuff in front of us. It's a hamlet, and the first time I went to East Chiltington, there's a lovely pub there. I think it's still there, called the as it's called the cricket, not the cricketers, the sportsman. And one of the lovely things about it was there was a Labrador there, and he would take a beer mat and go up to the bar, put his paws up on the bar, and offer to the bartender the beer mat for which he received his crisps. Just a lovely little place. It was a village. When it was a village, it suffered the plague, which wiped it out. If you were driving past the road that enters into the village, quite often you would see honey for sale, and it wasn't. The honey was there, and you were invited to take the honey, but if you felt like making a donation, the maker of the honey was very happy with that, but it wasn't necessary. And also, the man who played Margaret Thatcher's husband in many television program also lived there as an actor. And the countryside is absolutely ideal, absolutely beautiful. If you really want to talk about a place that you could get away and you would be so calm that you wouldn't worry about mental stress or mental illness, East Chiltern is it. And what is it? What is Eton College going to do? They're going to sell it for £120 million, right? 500 acres of it. And then they're going to build 3,000 homes on it. 3,000 homes. And of course, you know what the plans will say is there'll be affordable housing and so on. Rubbish. There are very, very few affordable homes on anybody's plans. It doesn't matter whether it's council, right up to the most avaricious of developers. I passed somebody in the street yesterday, and I heard them muttering that they have to change. They have to leave Lewis because they can't afford to live here anymore. Well, what a nonsense! What a nonsense! And I would like to think that we would invoke Jenkins' Ear War and make a fuss of it. Jenkins' Ear War? Never heard of it? Well, it's always held up to school children as being the state looking after the individual rather than the interests of the state in the 1700s, the early 1700s, when we were at war with Spain. And we clashed in the Caribbean. Spain controlling the Caribbean, but our men of war ships would sail up and down just on the rim. And a Spanish customs ship came alongside a British man of war, boarded it, there was a scuffle, and the captain of the British ship, Jenkins, had his ear cut off. And we went to war on the basis of Jenkins having his ear cut off. Well, you can believe that. Yes, as a youngster, you do. You believe anything. Of course, there was always the interest of the state at heart. But nonetheless, because it's held up for that, you'd like to think that for sometimes that the state will behave on behalf of its constituents, of the people that make it up. And if this sort of thing is allowed to go ahead, then believe me, Jenkins' ear needs to come to the fore. I would go and see I understand that Jenkins' ear is bottled somewhere. It was at one time put in front of the House of Commons as an example of what it should go to war for. In the middle of the debate, if I can find Jenkins' ear bottled somewhere, I'm going to put it on a banner and march around the country saying, Jenkins' ear, let's have more consideration for the citizen and less for the interests, the huge interests of the state. Okay, you may say that's the wrong way around, Keith. But it shouldn't be an either or. What we should be able to do is to mix these things, mix them so that we are looking after the individual as well as the state. Anyway, that's the local news that Stephen Catlin broke yesterday. And if you can catch Stephen Catlin on Mirador television, you'll hear him being far more articulate about this particular issue than I'm being. Right, nationally, we're falling out with China. They put sanctions on UK MPs who have actually taken up the issue of how China is dealing with a Muslim community. I suppose really between the electronics that China develops and wants to take part in overseas projects, and who has got the right or not the right to cheat to treat various groups within their society are going to be the big issues that we can face or look forward to seeing in post-COVID. A lottery winner quits her job and eyes up a Porsche Cayenne after she and her partner scoop £10,000 a month for the next 30 years. That'd be no good to me. I'm not going to last anywhere near 30 years. So I'm glad I didn't buy that lottery ticket. The government is trying hard to defend smart motorways. They've been criticised because of the accidents that take place on them, but is it Lindsey Graham? Let's get this right. It's Grant Shapps, who's the transport minister. He says rubbish, nonsense. We just leave them where they are. There's nothing wrong with them. So that's going to be an issue. But the big one, of course, is COVID. Are we going to get a third wave? We are beginning to relax some of the restrictions in Wales. It really, in many ways, we are seeing an easing towards the lifting of COVID restrictions, as indeed the Prime Minister promised. And if we see that, I think that we'll be a nation that will start to become at ease with itself again, because we haven't been at ease with ourselves. People have been very, very uptight about a whole host of things, and probably quite rightly so. It has been a nasty period in our modern history, and we hope that it won't carry on. All right, let's just take a look at the weather, shall we? Yeah, why not? Now it is 8 minutes past 8 o'clock on the 26th of March, Friday, the 26th of March. We've been beating our gums, as the Jamaicans would say, talking to ourselves, nobody listening because I punched the wrong button. Trust me, it's a Friday, and I had all sorts of other things on my mind because, like any business, we've got things that we've got to complete today. And I hate it when you have to do it on a Friday because I'd much rather be in the pub. But I can't be in the pub yet, but it's heading that way. And in Wales, the stay local rule is going to be lifted tomorrow. And that's at least a bright spot in the way that we can see the end of this dreadful period that we've been through. It's not a good scene, hasn't been a good scene. We actually have been quite stoical about it, if we think about it. The politicians are fighting about whether we get the virus jab or not. And I am getting my second one tomorrow, I may say. The Foundry group, of whom I am terribly critical, but nonetheless, when it comes to the medical side of things, are just excellent. We've got some excellent practitioners in the medical field and the health field in this part of the country. My doctor and my consultant are just they're those ladies. I'm in love with them, but I mean, apart from that, take that bias away, and they are absolutely superb. And I must say that I've maintained a loose relationship with the former head of the um, surgery at St Andrews, and I have the odd chat to him. And all in all, I think that we are very lucky in this part of the world. There is a lot of criticism elsewhere, but of course there is a political trust the politicians to get in the act because the NHS staff have been offered a 1% pay increase. And in Scotland, dear old Nicola is rising from the ashes again after taking a pounding. It's amazing how, the politicians could do absolutely everything wrong when they go before a committee, which then clears them of it. Talk about having your mates. Thank God the jury system isn't quite like that in this country. But she's offering 4%. But as the critics immediately say, is that's fine. If you're using that as a pry lever for independence, is that at 4% will be money that comes from Westminster. So you may be cutting your nose off to spite your face, my dear. So don't be fooled by the fact that they're able to offer in Scotland a far more generous package. It's smoke and mirrors. Smoke and mirrors. 1% isn't enough. I agree. I'm on the side of the NHS staff, but nonetheless, when the politicians start playing around with it, oh, watch out, watch out. The what else is hauliers must expect COVID tests as they enter the UK. So when the lorry's going to Dover and New Haven and so on and so forth, it's going to be somebody there, presumably. They take a little swab. When they tested me, is they stick it down your throat and stick it up your nose. And it's not one after the other. It's two different swabs, and then they can tell more or less whether you're look as if you're suffering. So we have to be a bit careful about people coming in. That seems to me not to be a too bad a thing. It's 12 minutes past 8 o'clock. And this morning, we need to just revel in the fact that it's Friday, that there is bright sparks. I'm looking out at my tree. Yes, there's a light breeze. It's waving a bit. The birds aren't that comfortable in it at the moment. So it seems that the weather forecast is accurate. But one of the things we talked about a big chill and then said it wasn't coming. It was going to be very temperate towards Easter. But it does look as if it's going to get cooler over this weekend. So once again, be careful, wrap up. Let's just take a moment and let's look. While we're busy watching television for one thing or another, there are millions and millions of what's called it goes viral, showed on the computer system, on Facebook and the social streamers and so on and so forth. So, have you ever wondered what they're looking at in the millions? I mean, it must be very intriguing. Well, here's some of the stuff that was highlighted in March as being those items on social media that people were watching all over the world. Well, those are the sort of things that everybody is watching, millions are watching, and just a handful when you talk about stuff that is very, very interesting to just a few people. And that's the way the balance should be. But it's amazing how many millions of us can be taken up with. There is some interesting stuff there, I suppose, but none of it is earth shattering. Um, now, let's talk about the homeless a little bit because you're looking at one. I am ready to book in on April the 15th. I've got my suitcase packed, and I'm going to go down to the council offices and I'm going to check in. I'm going to check in at 7 o'clock at night because I know that the receptionist has gone home, and then I'll settle down with my sleeping bag and my suitcase by my side because I'm going to be homeless. Oh dear, 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 dear. And then when the coppers come along, I shall put on Mirador television so that you can see what happens to the poor homeless people when they try to check into the people that should be looking after them. Jenkins here. Yeah, 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 yeah. Wish my name was Jenkins sometimes. Anyway, no, in seriousness, I have to find somewhere to live. And if you feel that I'm sort of looking for either a granny flat or what I really would like is an old-fashioned boarding house. They have gone. But when I first went to Belfast in 1975, I stayed at a place called Camera House, run by a lady called Nan Campbell, and all BBC people are rooted there, where they're there at a temporary basis. You've got a lovely room, you've got a sitting room if you wanted in the evening, and you've got 2 square meals a day if you wanted it. And they were just excellent establishments. They seem to have disappeared. I wonder why. I mean, I've never paid too much attention to it, but they're not around anymore. But if there is one that is a throwback, I'm your man. I want to be looked after. I'm fed up of looking after myself. I'm a world traveller. I've looked after myself years and years and years abroad. When I was at home, I had a most wonderful wife who made sure that because I've been putting up with the privations of being in naughty places, actually, she looked after me. And I miss it. That's probably, I'm sexist and all sorts of things for saying that. But if I can't have that, what I'm really looking for is a nice room. It has to be fairly central, A, because this is where we work, right in the heart of Lewis. And secondly, I do have some mobility problems, only slight mobility problems, in as much as I can't walk a mile or 2 miles to the train or the bus or whatever every day. I need to be able to walk to the office. But if you've got a room, if you're a family who want to supplement your income by a room with some meals or whatever, well, I'm your man. And if I may say so, I'm a curmudgeon. But I'm an optimist. I believe the glass half full. I like my tummy rubbed. And I am no problem at all after that. If I'm going to shout at somebody, I shout at the people outside my living quarters. So if you are let us know at Mirador Television if you've got anywhere that sounds suitable, and you could get in touch with me directly at Hayes Keith at hotmail.com. People say, "Oh, you shouldn't give out your own Hotmail." Well, there are so many people who have got it. I get emails in from Patagonia, from lonely ladies in Sierra Leone. I mean, what difference does it make? Anyway, that's me. I'm going to be homeless, and if you want to see, you know what's likely to happen, isn't it? Is I will go homeless, and then I'll put it on Mirador a couple of days, and instead of all the important things we talk about, what will happen is it'll go viral, and I'll have somebody in Beijing offer me a room. Mind you, if it's over a sort of a nice Chinese restaurant, I could go for that. Yeah, I wouldn't mind at least. I'm thinking, of course, of Susie Long, and I actually went in to one of the bars in when I was in Hong Kong, it was still in British territory. It was prior to 1997, and there were two places. One was where Susie Wong was supposed to have hung out, and indeed it was a Susie Wong bar. It was fascinating, and the other was, I think it was called Bottoms Up or Big Bottoms or something of the sort, which had featured in a James Bond movie. with a distant relative of mine who played James Bond, and whose name, of course, has escaped me the moment that I say that. Never mind. He's not going to worry about it because he's passed from this mortal coil now. And actually, I look at him, and he's not. He doesn't look a bit like me, so it doesn't matter. No, but that bar we were in, and that was featured in a James Bond movie. So if you've got a room in Hong Kong now, I would consider it, but it'd have to be sort of a bit down the shopping list. What are we going to do now? We are coming really because of my FUBAR to the end of the time allotted. It's 22 minutes past 8. And to be quite serious for a moment, I really do think that we've got a key issue here, a key issue, which I think we need to find out where. And I suspect, I personally don't believe that local politics should have political parties. But since we are being led by the Greens, I think this is a key issue for them. Is 500 acres in East Chiltington, delightful little village, is owned by Eton College, and they're going to sell it for some obscene amount of money and have 3,000 homes built on it. If you've ever been to East Chiltington, and the chances are it's not somewhere you would pass through. It's off the beaten track. It's got a nice little pub, but it's just a beautiful, beautiful little place. And it's all going to be destroyed. Well, you say, well, we need 3,000 homes. We need them. Yes, we do. But we've got to be very careful. And there was a big argument and debate on social media about what we should be using to build. And there are lots of brown sites. But no, the developers don't want to go for brown sites because sometimes they have to treat them. Because there are all sorts of chemicals sometimes, or they've been polluted and they need treating. But that doesn't mean to say that we have to go and rip up the countryside, because that's the sort of thing that will help us with the mental illnesses that have increased enormously as a result of COVID. So right hand, left hand politicians, let's get it all together. And let's fight the countryside being ripped up in such a wanton way and a cavalier way. Let's do it. But even Eton College, with all its power and all its influence and all its might, must have to go through the process of planning. And whoever is the planning authority, and it probably, I would have thought East Chiltington is close enough into Lewes that it's Lewes, pays great scrutiny to this application. And then we don't suddenly lose a part of the environment, particularly when we've got a green government, to one of the, as many people have said, avaricious. And I don't go along with this elitism bit, but it is certainly, if you go to Eton, you get a privileged education. That's quite different. That we should give in to, because this is our part of the world. And we should have Jenkins' ear war. The government should take the part of the citizen for once and not the interests of the state. There we go. I had all that rant when I was talking to myself. And now, fortunately, we've got the rant that is I've discovered how to get myself onto the television screen. 8:25. Just let me remind you of some of the people that help us.
When you miss the train, don't despair. Have a nice cup of coffee. and perhaps a mince pie. At the runaway on Lewes Station. After that, why worry about the next train? The runaway on Lewes Station. Relaxation beyond compare.
Well, there we are. It's now 28 minutes past 8 o'clock on Friday, the 26th of March, 2021. And not been a good year so far, but it looks as if it's perking up a little bit. In the news this morning, locally, Eton College are trying to sell 500 acres of beautiful, beautiful countryside around East Chiltington, a little village outside Lewes, so that 3,000 homes can be built. There'll be a row about it. Some people will say, well, we've got to build a home somewhere. And others will say, hang on, this is an absolutely natural beauty place. And in many ways is the area through which Simon de Montfort's Baron's army marched. And that Battle of Lewes in 1264 was all about democracy, the spark of English democracy. Let's hope that that area can again become a spark for English democracy, and that the people can have a say in what happens there, not just bureaucracy that has a piece of paper to fill out. And for that matter, yes, an elite college, good though it may be, that has the might and the power to swipe us all aside. 8:30, time for me to go. Just a couple of things locally, as far as news is concerned, also, and that is that I get my second jab tomorrow. So we are well on a track. And not only that, but I get it within 100 yards of where I live, which is absolutely superb. I know some people have had to travel for it. I've been very, very lucky in that regard. But the vaccination program seems to be on track, even though we are threatened with delays in the not too distant future. Let's hope those delays don't come because European politicians start to fight amongst themselves about who should be able to distribute the virus and vaccine and who not. But other than that, have a nice weekend. It does look as if it's going to be a bit chilly, even though it's a pleasant enough day today. We'll be back on Monday, preparing to take us up to a long weekend, the Easter weekend, which starts next Friday, the 2nd. And when we come back on Tuesday, the 6th, we think that Mirador will have weathered COVID, that it will get back on track, that it will have got the support which it was seeking and was promised, and that means that we'll have a more interesting, but certainly a more informative television service for you, not only here in Lewis, but in the rest of the world, because that's where we broadcast to. Till then, till Monday, although you may see us pop up from time to time when it's necessary. Toodle pip, he said. Let's go and say goodbye, goodbye, goodbye. Oh dear, there we go. Ta-ra.